premier short track series is building up speed. The eyes of the nation are focused on America's heartland. Those eyes have seen the hands of experience raised in victory and the enthusiasm of youth. The faces may change from one race to the next, but the tradition of hard racing and relentless action remains the same. When the stars and cars of the ASA take to the track, there's no holding back. Best short track racing anywhere visits Western Michigan for the Port City 200. A hot sunny day has given way to beautiful conditions at Berlin Raceway in front of a huge contingent of some of the best fans anywhere in America. A little bit warm and muggy, but these people will have a great time here tonight. You can believe that. Hello everybody, I'm Brian Drever along with my good friend former race driver Rob Albright. And well, Rob's been telling me about this place. I've never been here. I've got my rookie stripes on, so I'm a newcomer to Berlin Raceway. But from what I understand from you and all these people, this place is something else.
I've always contended that this place has the best race fans in the world. I think we ought to do 10 races right here at Berlin Raceway in Western Michigan. It's been the home of a lot of great racing talent, including Michigan's own Bob Senneker, the Bluebird, who's won 7 times here in his illustrious racing career, led over 1,000 laps. He's going to be a tough one tonight.
Well, I understand, though, that to really get in the spirit of things, you've got to pick out a favorite driver and wear a hat. Oh, tough crowd. I might have picked the wrong hat.
Yeah, I think you might have. Mike has had a lot of success, but if you want to get these people on your side, you got to have a blue hat with an 84 on it that says Bob Senneker. I got them all on my side. What are you going to do about it?
I don't know. You know, I guess playing the devil's advocate, you can't go too wrong with Mike Eddy because of the great job that he's done, not only here at this raceway, but of course this season. He started off the season with 3 wins. He's been in the winner's circle, but not on top of the podium the last couple of times. Nevertheless, his success here has been pretty good.
And we may see a brand new first-time winner here at Berlin. It's been a track that's very good to local drivers, as only twice in 27 races has a non-Michigan-based driver won at this racetrack.
Well, the Michigan fans can't lose. 5 out of the top 5 drivers on the front of the grid are from Michigan. Now, we're going to go real quick to the 3rd member of our broadcast team, America's only stock car racing female pit reporter, Sandy Hang.
These veterans are side by side in what promises to be an incredible matchup, but they are not on the front row. A hometown hero here, Johnny Benson Jr., is on the front row, sits on the pole tonight. Johnny, there's been a lot of talk about the changes in the surface here at the racetrack, the new surface. You've raced here a long time. How has it really changed?
Well, I'll tell you, the last couple years it's been really slippery, but they put a new surface on here. It's great. It's 2 grooves. It's kind of like the old track back when I used to run here, so we're really looking forward to a great race.
What's it like running in front of your hometown fans here?
Oh, it's unbelievable. You know, I haven't seen these people in about a year since I've been here. The guys have done a great job preparing Burgess Chevrolet, Port City Racing Chevrolet, and it's just awesome to be back in front of the home crowd and, you know, see everybody back here home again.
Okay, that's Johnny Benson Jr. sitting on the pole.
On the front row, we have to mention the other front row sitter, Joe Knott. Here's what happened to him in qualifying.
Brian, this was on his 2nd of 2 qualifying laps. Knott spins and hits the wall hard after turning in the 2nd quick time of the evening on his 1st lap. That crew has hustled, getting him back and ready to go here tonight, but what he will have is kind of an unknown quantity.
So at least he was on the clock for that 1st lap, and he sits on the front row. 1 lap out of 2, at least he made it. So Joe Knott starts from the front, but as you said, we're not sure how that car is going to perform. Points for the season, Mike Eddy, 3 wins. He's on top of the standings. There you have it.
Gary St. Amant and Glenn Allen Jr., who finished 1st and 2nd last weekend at I-70. Scott Hansen not happy yet. He's 4th in the points. He's really not been a contender for a victory. Bob Senneker has one. He's 5th.
Well, he'll be looking to move up the standings, and the fans here will be trying to help him along. Brian Reffner, last year's rookie runner-up. Mike Miller, who had been as high as 2nd in points, moving down the list a little bit. Loney, there's Knott, and Tony Raines. Well, we're just about ready to get this thing kicked off, and once again we're going to go down to the starting grid for the third member of our team, Sandy Hang.
Well, right now I'm here with someone very important, Lynn Bovee with Port City Racing. You've got something to say here, and what is it? Everyone at Port City would like to welcome everybody here. We're proud to be a sponsor of the Port City Racing 200, and let's go racing!
They're firing up the engines here. 32 cars are about to take to the track for the Port City 200 laps of the best racing that we expect to see this season.
Most trackers can follow the trail only as long as the weather holds out. Unless it's a tracker spurred on with genuine AC spark plugs. AC plugs fire faster than lightning for performance so smooth, even the thunder claps. And that'll keep your engine on the trail to a longer life.
Call 1-800-AC-Delco. It's like buying time.
So better track down some AC spark plugs.
What vitamins do for your body, VitaWins does for your car.
Power up with a power-engineered system from Competition Cam. Matching components for peak horsepower. Cams, lifters, springs, valves, rockers, timing sets, and push rods. An unbeatable system. Power-engineered components produce outstanding power and outstanding torque. Cam Help is your toll-free link to the Competition Cam's technical department. Call 1-800-999-0853. You can't beat a power-engineered system from Competition Cam.
Goodyear wins the Indy 500.
It's the greatest race in the world, and winning it gives you a feeling you just can't imagine. Just incredible. Unbelievable. And we had exactly what we needed to get to the finish line first, including our Goodyear Eagles, the tires that know how to win at Indy.
Goodyear, #1 at the Indy 500 24 years straight.
In my lifetime, there's only been one tire legend at Indy, and that's Goodyear.
The AC-Delco Challenge Series on Prime presents the Port City Racing 200. Brought to you in part by Wynn Oil Company, makers of quality automotive car care products. Remember, when it's wins, it works. By your GM Goodwrench service dealer, we want your business. By Goodyear, #1 in racing, #1 in tires. And by Winnebago, raise your expectations of what a motorhome should be. Here we are at Berlin Raceway, Marne, Michigan, just a little bit outside Grand Rapids, Michigan, which of course is the brand new home office for the David Letterman Show. But for a lot longer than that, it has been the home of great stock car racing, because these people right here are the ones that make it that way. Let's take a look at the starting grid for the Port City Racing 200.
Occupying the front row, earning a 7th pole position. Johnny Benson Jr. 7th here. Of course, he won 10 poles in his championship season in 1993. Joe Knott with a career-best qualifying effort. He'll start outside row 1 in the Allen Knott Valvoline Raby Thunderbird.
18 victories here at Berlin Raceway between Mike Eddy and the GM Goodwrench Service HRE Pontiac and Bob Senneker of the Johnsonville Sausage Lane Automotive Ford.
Local favorite Dave Sensiva starts inside row number 3 in the Western Michigan Chevy Dealers Lane Chevrolet, and Brad Loney will start 6th in the Flex Steel Winnebago H&W Chevy.
Second in rookie points right now, J.D. Summers in the Ford Quaker State Blue Water Industries machine, and Todd Forbes, after a week off, comes back, puts his car in 8th starting spot.
Third in the current point standings, Glenn Allen Jr. He'll start 9th in the Eaglewood Construction CarQuest Pontiac. And on the outside of row 5, fellow Pontiac driver Tony Raines in the Baker Enterprises Clean Burn machine.
Tony Roper's string of bad luck has continued last week. He's hoping to break it here again. And Jeff Neal, in what many consider to be the best looking race car, well, at least a few of us have voted for that. He starts out there on the outside of the row.
Row number 7, Kent Stauffer and Rick Beebe. The 8th row, Gary St. Amant, winner a week ago, and Ted Smokestad, a rookie in car number 32.
Continuing to move back through the field, Pat Bordeaux with another good qualifying run. James Powell, a new face here to the ASA. Mike Miller back there just barely snuck in without having to go to the last chance race alongside Brian Reffner.
On the inside in row number 11, Scott Hansen. You wouldn't have expected to see him in the last chance race. He won a 15-lap event here tonight. And Eddie Sharp, another rookie, row 12, fellow rookie Brett Bell in car number 56, and Ray Skillman in 27.
Tom Jones, the zero hero in the Felpro Pacejacks Pontiac, Bill Baird in the Saturn Machine Chevrolet, Rick Miller, the rookie leader, and veteran Harold Fair.
The inside of row number 15 in his second ASA start, John O'Neill in the A.J. Cooper machine. Steve Shive goes alongside car number 54, the 16th row. A winner here a couple of years ago, Dennis Lampman. And on the outside of row 16, car number 3, the racing surgeon, Dr. Gail Conley.
That's the starting grid, 32 cars taking the track. Who knows how many fans in the stands out there are going to be enjoying this race, but the stands are packed.
We're going to take a look at what things were like around here earlier this afternoon. The surface of this racetrack was extremely hot. Brand new pavement at 2:30 p.m. 131 degrees, and that really at a time when the cars weren't on the racetrack, some 20 to 25 degrees hotter, and chunks of asphalt were actually coming up. It caused ASA to shorten practice considerably. In fact, the track was silent for about 3 hours this afternoon.
They did finally get back underway with a very minimal practice session and then qualifying. Here it is, just under a half-mile oval, not a real high-bank racetrack, but you heard Johnny Benson say that with the new pavement, they expect two-groove racing here, just like when he raced here on a weekly basis.
And this is ASA's track that's too tough to tame. 200 laps, 87.6 miles, 32 cars in the starting grid. Look at the balance among the machines. 7 Pontiacs, though they've been dominant at the top through much of the season. 13 Chevrolets, 11 Fords, and a lone Oldsmobile.
And another quick stat, 5 out of the top 5 drivers on the starting grid from Michigan, 7 out of the front 10 from Michigan. A lot of good drivers come out of Michigan, and a lot of them race here on a regular basis, and that's why. Getting ready to go green as Roger Slack is waving the flags. 200 laps of racing in the Port City 200 get underway with Johnny Benson Jr. on the inside alongside Joe Knott, who is going to be somewhat of an unknown quantity here because, as we mentioned before at the start of the race, at the start of the show, I should say, Joe Knott got his first lap of qualifying in and ran to the wall. He has not been out on the racetrack since with that car, so the setup is going to be a little bit of a mystery.
And Brian, Joe showing strong confidence, though he's also displaying a lot of smoke. His crew chief is Chris Bradley. He turned the wrenches for Johnny Benson in his championship season. Mike Eddy won at second, got briefly alongside Knott, but Knott closed the door and hangs on to second as that smoke continues to billow from the tail feathers of the Thunderbird.
So as the field stretches out here and begins to sort itself out a little bit, Johnny Benson has opened the only noticeable gap among the front runners there. And we would have to expect that the former ASA champion and the current BGN leader is going to be a very talented performance out here tonight. Let's go once again down to Sandy Hang in the infield.
Well, this is concerning Joe Knott's crew a great deal right now. They're trying to analyze what might be wrong. They did a lot of changes after that qualifying. They put a new rear end on, left control arm, new upper and lower A-frames, a new spindle, a quick realignment. They did a lot, and they don't know if they got it fixed.
Well, Mike Eddy was a bit impatient, I think. Maybe he was getting fluid up on the windshield of his race car, but he wrapped Joe Knott in the tail pretty solidly and sent Joe spinning. I'm sure we'll have a chance to take a look at it. Johnny Benson, who was the leader, had pulled away to about a 7 or 8 car length advantage, but I think Mike Eddy just said, hey, I don't want this smoking car in front of me, and took care of that promptly.
Well, as we were talking about all the parts that had been replaced on Joe Knott's car, here he comes steaming around to the front of the field and heading to the end of pit road. He'll make a hard left turn right here and go on into the pits to see if he can further analyze. Oh, he didn't quite make that hard left turn.
Well, what he wants to do, Brian, is catch the pace car first, because the cars have to pit in a very small infield pit area. He's got to run all the way up to the front in order to not lose a lap, so he'll wait till the next time. Now, he's moved alongside Mike Eddy, gives him a little rap in the door, and the fans come to their feet as a result. Here's the bump. Now, it wasn't hard, but it doesn't take much here at Berlin, especially when it occurs in the turn.
Joe Knott hard on the gas, trying to save the rear end there as Mike Eddy and the rest of the field. Dave Sensiba going through the smoke, everybody else swinging wide, and Joe Knott brings the car all the way around without any further damage and no contact. Well, there wasn't any wall where he turned it around up there. So Joe Knott is going to head into the pits. We're under caution right here very quickly after only 6 laps of the race. A lot of racing coming up and a lot of action yet to see.
You will receive cash. Yes, cash for Rolex, cash for Patek Philippe, cash for Cartier. Heritage Estate buyers will pay you cash for these men's wristwatches or the others I will list. Heritage is on a national search for watches. We will help you with cash if you own a Vacheron, Universal Geneve, Breitling, also Audemars, Movado, and Le Coultre. Your watch can be worth thousands of dollars if it's a chronograph, moon phase, or repeater. This is an opportunity for you to receive cash for a watch that's gathering dust in a drawer. Heritage Estate buyers will pay you cash for the fine men's wristwatches we listed, working or not. If you don't call now, you're losing money. Write down our number. We're ready to pay top dollars now. Time means money. Call Heritage now.
Call 1-800-352-2121 to learn how to receive cash for your vintage watch. Time means money. Call toll-free 1-800-352-2121. Call now.
The top stories and the final word in racing with the highlights and the lowlights. If it's got a motor and somebody races it, chances are you'll find it on Pit Road. The preview, Thursday nights on this regional sports network.
The furled green flag is in the hands of Roger Slack, who is controlling this race from the flag stand, and we see the field coming around, bunched tightly once again. And now Mike Eddy and Johnny Benson Jr. 1-2 in the field right now. Well, Mike Eddy running second behind the former ASA champion. What great battles these two had over the years, with Johnny Benson winning his championship a couple of seasons ago.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, Joe Knott remains on pit road in car number 48. So apparently whatever problem there was is severe, as he has not yet been able to rejoin this race.
Let's go once again to Sandy Hang down in the pits with the Joe Knott crew.
Well, I understand from the Joe Knott crew that it is a transmission seal. It's going to be a tough one for you, Joe. How you plan on getting this fixed? You're going to have to wait it out.
Yeah, we're going to have to wait it out here and get it fixed. Just got in a little trouble there. Just racing hard down without motorsports right before Thunderbird. Valvoline's car really this weekend. Just had a little misfortune qualifying. Got in a little crash. Other than that, we're running good. We just had a little leak there in the training seal. We'll be all right back out.
Some tough breaks for Joe Knott.
And you know, Brian, you've got to give him credit for being a bold young man at just 22. Pulled up alongside Mike Eddy just before he came on pit road and gave him a little rap in the door, just to let him know he knew he got a little help going around.
Well, I would have to say help, and we made a quick comment about this while the rest of you were watching commercial messages. It appeared as though, and now when we hear that it was a leaking transmission seal, that perhaps Joe's car was getting a little greasy in the rear end there with oil coming out, and as you said, Mike Eddy might have been having some oil on the windshield, got impatient. Either way, it appeared as though Joe was getting loose, and then Mike just helped him around.
Good battle for 8th position. That's Glenn Allen Jr. and Tony Raines. Glenn Allen in the purple car number 15, Tony in the white-red numeral number 87, as they close in on J.D. Summers. Now, Summers sits right behind Brad Loney, and a good distance has opened up between Loney, who's 6th, and Todd Forbes, who runs 5th in car number 07. So Loney's car number 33. Loney, of course, finishing 3rd last week. Car not handling very well early in the race.
Glenn Allen Jr., one of the early guys to try out the two-group racing theory of Johnny Benson Jr., and now ducking down inside of Brad Loney goes J.D. Summers, and Raines tries to catch that inside line train.
Well, Glenn Allen obviously knows that he can make the outside groove work, as we've got a caution again and a car against the wall. It's Dr. Yale Conley between turns 3 and 4, and the bad luck just persists for a racing surgeon.
Well, the bad luck actually is an extension of what went on last weekend, a very expensive weekend for Dr. Yale Conley and for David Sensiba, because between the two drivers, they tore up 4 cars, and actually 3 cars, because Yale Conley had a misfortune with his own car. He rented Dave Sensiba's backup car. Sensiba crashed his own car, and Conley was involved in an incident in Sensiba's backup car. So Dave Sensiba's in a brand new automobile, and who knows what Dr. Yale Conley has had to go through this past week to get his own car back in shape. And there he goes down to pit road to see the extent of the damage to the tail end of his car. Here's another look, and let's look a little closer here. Well, here's Mike Eddy and Johnny Benson Jr., and apparently Mike Eddy's aggressive driving style continues.
You know, I guess he feels like if you're going to get booed, you might as well create another reason to have that happen here at Grand Rapids. Just as the caution display, there's Dr. Conley.
Kind of looks like Mike Eddy came up on the short end of his own little action there, as he was the one that got loose. Well, the story, the saga continues here at Berlin Raceway, and we'll be right back to bring it to you.
high-performance sports car technology and combine it with the #1 name in motorhomes, and what do you get? The exciting new Rialta from Winnebago Industries, the official motorhomes of NASCAR. The fuel-efficient Rialta features front-wheel drive maneuverability, great towing capacity, a unique floor plan, and is fully self-contained. So whether you're following the NASCAR circuit or enjoying America, the Rialta is built for you. For more information, call 1-800-643-4892. The new Rialta, it's more than a motorhome.
Hi, I'm Josh Duvall. If you ever wanted to be a young racer, it's easy. If you have a question about racing or your favorite driver, write it down on a card and send it to me. We'll have one of our drivers and officials answer for you on the air. If your question is selected, we'll send you a nifty racing hat and t-shirt. So send your questions to Young Racers, P.O. Box 26792, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28221.
Berlin Raceway under caution as the field circles the track. Let's go down inside to Sandy Hank.
Well, you might have noticed that Scott Hansen made 2 quick pit stops. The first time he put on lefts, it was just too tight. He came back in again because he figured he was already at the end. He now put on rights. His car was too tight, so, you know, he figured he was back in the back, so he came back in. He hopes to get it right this time.
You know, Sandy just said something that gives rise to a question, and that is you're allowed to change 2 tires on 1 caution stop. Did he change all 4 under this caution? We'll have to wait and see.
Getting ready to go back green with Johnny Benson Jr. leading Mike Eddy, Bob Senneker, and Dave Sensiva. 4 Michigan drivers up front now with the 07 car of Todd Forbes running in 5th spot. So Ohio driver in 5th spot and 4 Michigan drivers up front. Close quarters racing here once again as Mike Eddy draws right up to the rear bumper of Johnny Benson Jr. These two are no strangers to one another, although recently they have not raced against each other very much.
And it's a real disadvantage for Johnny Benson. I asked him earlier today if he felt more pressure coming back here as the Busch Grand National points leader than he did when he was racing for an ASA championship, and he said absolutely. He said it's tough to come back and race against these guys. They're the best short trackers around. It's completely different from my Busch Grand National car. He said you just can't come back, walk in, and go fast. Now the advantage he has, he could race this track blindfolded, no doubt about it. He's had so much success here, and that's the only equalizer that he has to his favor.
Well, the fans here at Berlin Raceway certainly have not forgotten their hometown hero, Johnny Benson Jr., because they have showed up in droves, and there are Johnny Benson paraphernalia flying from every corner of this racetrack. Banners, hats, t-shirts, just about anything you can put the name Johnny Benson on is being worn by somebody here in Western Michigan.
Some racetracks a driver can go to for the first time and immediately feel comfortable because it will remind him of someplace else. That's not the case here at Berlin. I've had drivers tell me I thought I knew how to apex a turn. In other words, find the optimal turn-in point. What it looks like the right place to turn in is the wrong place. The other thing drivers do here, Brian, I think, when they first come for the first time, is they have a tendency to drive into the turn too hard. You'll see the veterans a lot of times getting out of the throttle earlier, letting the car roll easily into the corner, and that allows them then to get back on the throttle quicker as they exit the corner.
Johnny Benson Jr. certainly has this place figured out, leaving no room to spare as he swings up towards the wall. Mike Eddy trying a little high line there, giving him a look on the outside. And Bob Senneker just sort of patiently, and you can almost look up the word patience in the dictionary and see a definition, Bob Senneker right there. He just waits and bides his time. He's watching those 2 guys to see what he's going to do.
Well, we talked about Bob Senneker running just a stereotypical Senneker race at Jennerstown Speedway, sitting back early and letting Mike Eddy set the pace. It's almost instant replay here at Berlin. The car appears to be handling extremely well. Where Mike Eddy wants to run right on Johnny Benson's back bumper, Senneker's giving them about a half car length of breathing room.
The opportunistic Bob Senneker. Sandy Hang down in the infield. Another opinion?
Well, Bob Senneker, you know, we've heard, first of all, Hansen and also the 71 car were tight. Bob Senneker, it's a different story. They are loose. They're not sure exactly why, and that's something they're trying to figure out right now.
And loose at Berlin Raceway, a relatively flat racetrack, is a condition that will not improve as they run laps under green. The car will just get looser and looser. So he will need a caution at some point. However, the fact that he really has nobody pressuring him means that he can run whatever groove is most comfortable for that Blue Ford Thunderbird.
The 3 and front have now opened a bit of a gap on Dave Senneker, who has lost some ground as Todd Forbes is trying to make a little bit of a duel back there for 4th place. So the lead trio, and then you can see the gap back to 4th place, Dave Senneker, Todd Forbes, J.D. Summers, the very quick rookie driver, and then it is Tony Raines, number 87, in the Baker Enterprises clean burn Pontiac, running 7th.
As we look at the positions relative to one another, the top 7 or 8 cars, we'll let you know that Scott Hansen, who was in under the most recent caution, has moved from 29th when we went back to green to 18th. That's 11 positions in just 10 laps.
Well, we've also heard a lot of the guys down on pit road earlier today during the lull in action when there was no practice say that good tires late in the race are very, very important. And apparently that's exactly what Scott Hansen is trying to get the right formula together for his tires, perhaps for a late race charge once he knows the setup.
What happens sometimes, Brian, when a track gets new pavement, if it makes the track significantly faster, what was always a good 2-groove racetrack can become a single groover. Now, we've seen them pretty much running single file early. I don't think that has anything to do with the fact that it has become a 1-groove racetrack. It's a little slower than it used to be. I think it's a situation, as you've just mentioned, drivers saving tires early.
Make that 29th to 17th position as Scott Hansen has just picked up another spot on number 56, Brett Bell.
The driver who's slipping back just a little bit is Brad Loney's car number 33, as he's in 9th position as the top 8 now run right together on the racetrack.
Johnny Benson Jr., Mike Eddy, and Bob Senneker are the protagonists in this one. At least 2 out of those 3 are big crowd favorites here at Berlin Raceway. Here's a nice battle between Senneker and Forbes that we referred to just a bit earlier. Todd Forbes, last time that we were racing, was not able to make the race. He owns, as I understand it, a trucking company, and he had to make a run himself. And here is a pass, an attempt at a pass for the lead as we go back up front to Mike Eddy and Johnny Benson Jr.
Well, if he's able to make it stick, and it looks like he just might this time off turn number 4, there will be about 50 people that will rise with clenched fists in glee, and there will be about 7,000 that will shake their fists in disdain. And Mike loves it here. He just likes the fact that the people are loud. You know, I mean, he said, hey, I don't care if they, scream against me. I just want to see them enthusiastic about the racing.
Well, they certainly have something to enjoy here. Good racing side by side as Mike Eddy tries to force Johnny Benson a little bit high, and Bob Senneker is just kind of lurking along there. If he sees an opening, he just might shoot through and take them both.
Now, you hit the nail on the head when you said the opportunist. That just marks his racing career, and that's what he's waiting for right now, is somebody to be able to make the break. What will often happen, too, you'll see a car that will get alongside another like Mike Eddy. Now, you'd have thought, as hard as he was working on Benson, that getting alongside, he would make the pass easily. But what happens, car number 88 wants to run up to the wall coming off the corners. Benson staying on the high side doesn't give him room. And Mike Eddy has probably heated the right side tires on car number 88.
Well, Johnny Benson staves off the attack of Mike Eddy, maintains the lead here as they begin to get up into traffic now. That's going to cause another situation, because where they might be able to race 1 groove or 2 by their own choice, as they get up into the back of the field, they're going to have to go high and wide or hope that the guys in front move over.
Meanwhile, rookie points leader Rick Miller in the Extrude Hone Powerflow Chevrolet has just coasted past the start-finish line. The engine not under power, and he's made his way on the pit road.
Who started the season and has made very steady progress through the course of the first races. Here's a race for 7th place as Glenn Allen Jr. gives J.D. Summers a little nudge and moves through. Summers, like Johnny Benson up front, is unwilling to relinquish that spot easily, but eventually he has to give up to Glenn Allen Jr., who gave him just a little bump and run there.
Glenn Allen had the fastest car in practice. Most people were surprised, a little disappointed if they're Glenn Allen fans, with his qualifying run. Started back in 9th position and appears to be taking his time working toward the front of the field.
Well, and I asked him again this afternoon if he was fast enough to suit himself, and he said, you're darn right. And then I said, well, are you fast enough to scare yourself? He said, always.
This continues to be, I heard you, but I'm just watching this battle for 4th between Dave Senneker and Todd Forbes. Again, pretty amazing that Forbes, absent last weekend, can come back so strongly in that Maisto Yoder Ford Thunderbird as he's battling local favorite Dave Senneker for that 4th position.
Boy, these two are really going at it. Two very closely prepared cars and set up cars. They're no one able to get any kind of advantage over the other, as Dave Senneker, who's got to be a little bit beat up and bruised after he took a wall ride courtesy of Mike Eddy last week. Well, somewhat courtesy of Mike Eddy. The two had been racing pretty hard position in the middle of the pack. Dave Senneker limping around a little bit bruised up. He's now locked in a pretty good battle here with Todd Forbes in the 07. And another opportunistic guy, Tony Raines, taking a peek down on the inside of Forbes' car.
Tony had a strong run last weekend at I-70. Early in the going, appeared to be one of the cars to beat. And we've had a hard hit over in turn number 4. And it's involved car number 44,
James
the
Powell
machine
in the
of
car.
Pat Bordeaux, and James Powell, as you mentioned, making his first start in the Jim and Deb Daly car number 2. Now Powell's going to be able to drive his car away. Bordeaux's car had the hard hit, and the right front is severely damaged. You know, we may not get another chance to talk about James Powell, but he made his first start here tonight, and a real tip of the hat to this young man. Our thoughts and prayers with him. He lost his father, mother, and twin 4-year-old daughters in a plane crash barely a week and a half ago. And he said if it wasn't for the Lord, he'd have not made it through it. And what a strong-hearted, strong-willed young man. We hope he's able to get that car back in competition tonight. I think Pat Bordeaux's night may be done in car number 44. Heavy damage to the right front corner.
Pat Bordeaux doing a good job here as a rookie contender. He is currently 6th in rookie points. Let's go once again down to Sandy Hang. Are you there, Sandy? Can we see you?
I'm down here. There's a lot of action in the pits. A lot of drivers are taking advantage of this yellow flag to change tires. Right now, you're looking at the car number 98, Ken Stopper. He's taking on 2 right sides. Just before him, Mike Miller came in. He missed his pit. Had to back up. Costly for him, but he did take on 2 right side tires. Also, you're looking at the number 2 car came in to take a pit, and also the number 56 car. All Red Bell taking advantage of this yellow flag.
And it looks like wholesale activity in the pits there as the smoke is clearing somewhat now. We're going to see if we can get things cleared up. Johnny Benson Jr.
If you can make that shot.
America's favorite bad golfer is back.
That will go down as the greatest shot in golf history.
It's Leslie Nielsen's all-new Bad Golf My Way. Keep your eye on the ball.
That's right.
Your hand on your wallet.
All right, let's make it an even 100.
And play by the rules.
Delay of game. 5-yard penalty.
There's no way you're going to get out of this match.
Can you believe this?
Clowns on a golf course? I'm shocked.
From now on, we are going to play normal, proper golf.
Call now for the hilarious all-new comedy sports video. Leslie Nielsen's Bad Golf My Way. It's not how you win, it's how the other guy loses.
Tell me about it.
Call now to order Leslie Nielsen's Bad Golf My Way, only $19.98. This video makes the perfect gift. Rush delivery available. Call 1-800-352-2121. That's 1-800-352-2121.
Be a part of summer fun and patriotism this July on Prime. The sun shines on the IBM ATP Tour as tennis stars serve up some heated competition. Then join Prime for some high-speed fun at the Miller Genuine Draft 500 qualifying and the Sportsman 150. Prime's patriotism shines at the Olympic Festival as America's finest compete for the Olympic dream. And how about some Big Apple pie as the LPGA tees off in the Jowl Big Apple Classic. Show your stars and stripes and have some fun this July on Prime.
Motorhome facilities for Group 5 sports and the AC-Delco Challenge Series are provided by Winnebago Industries. For more information about Winnebago, call 1-800-643-4892. And for all of us, Roger Slack, our flag man, has put a personal message to his dad on the back of the black flag clock there. On the other side would be the number of a car that is displayed if the black flag comes out. So happy Father's Day, Dad. To Rocky, to Bob, and to everybody out there.
I want to say happy Father's Day to all the dads. One in particular, Howdy Thomas, crew chief for Mike Eddy, not only celebrating Father's Day, but his kids, Tricia, JR, Jennifer, Lewis, wanted to say happy birthday to their dad also.
That's double jeopardy here.
Yeah, it is. That, you get one gift? Here, Dad.
That's like being born on Christmas.
Yeah, just about. Well, several drivers came in under that caution, including Brad Loney in car number 33, as well as Brian Reffner in car number 5. Unfortunately, Mike Miller, I think, came in just before the caution flag came out, Brian, and we're now showing one of these top points drivers as a lap down in car number 18.
Well, I thought I saw him duck in just before you made mention, rather loudly, I might add, about the hard contact down in the turn 3-4 area.
That wasn't me. That was Torch back here. Our always, believable source of information. Right. I knew something had happened.
The background sounds that you hear, if it's not Rob's voice or mine, would be that of our know-it-all brothers up here, our stats guys, and they're the ones that warn us when we're looking at one part of the track. They're looking at all parts of the racetrack. But yes, it did seem as though Mike Miller ducked in just before the crash happened, and of course before the caution flag came out.
And amazingly, James Powell in that blue and yellow car number 2 did not go a lap down. We thought he was involved in the contact. He remains in the lead lap at the Gillum JB Car Care Ocala Speedway Pontiac.
I cannot believe that he was untouched either, because he got all over the place. And Rick Miller, we understand through our network of information sources, has lost an engine. So the rookie points leader is now out, and therefore the case for J.D. Summers, Rick Beebe, Steve Shive, Ted Smokestad, their stock is rising with the absence now of Rick Miller, the rookie points leader.
We understand Mike Miller is 2 laps down, a flat right front tire forcing him in on pit road under green, as we're now just about half a lap away from returning to green flag conditions. And there is the Atlanta Communications Pontiac, car number 18.
Mike Miller coming here, trying to put aside his misfortunes of the last several weeks. And when everyone jumped in to help him a couple of weeks ago when he had big problems with the number 18 car, today when Joe Knott went into the wall, the first guy to Joe Knott's pit was Mike Miller and his crew to help out their fellow driver that was pitted next to them in the infield.
And they did a great job of piecing it back together, but apparently all problems not resolved, as Knott, who started outside row number 1 and ran second, is now out of the race apparently.
So we're back to green flag racing with Johnny Benson Jr. and Mike Eddy and Bob Senneker up front. How many times have the fans of ASA heard those 3 names mentioned in the same breath over the last several years? You're hearing it again right here at Berlin Raceway.
And again, Mike Miller takes a look to the low side. This is where he's done it each of the 2 times, and he's made the attempt to get around Johnny Benson. He would like to try to do it very quickly on the restart. He's able to get alongside, but when he can't run to the outside on the straightaways, it simply forces him right back behind Benson once again.
You really got to tip your hat to Johnny Benson out there for his lack of give up. I mean, he just clings tenaciously out there. He's like a bulldog, just holding on to that lead. I mean, the easy thing to do would be to sort of slide back and take a look at Mike Eddy for a while and then challenge later on. But no, Johnny Benson Jr. is just trying with every ounce of his driving ability to hold on to the race lead, while Mike Eddy forces his way past on the inside and just edges across the line, at least, in front of Johnny Benson Jr.
As long as Benson can hang on to that outside line, as long as Eddy can't ease ahead coming off turn number 4, it will be difficult to complete the pass. Now watch, again, Benson wants that tail get out a little bit, slightly out of the racing groove, but Mike Eddy cannot get up high on the racetrack, which is what he needs to get that run down the straight.
How are the scorers viewing that? Because it appears as though Mike gets the nose of his car across the finish line just a few inches ahead of Johnny Benson, but then once they get up into the turns, it seems clear that Johnny Benson Jr., and now we have another incident on the racetrack.
Ted Smokestad and Ray Skillman have gotten together in turn number 3.
Bringing out another caution flag here as we are 67 laps into the 200 scheduled for action tonight at Berlin Raceway in the Port City Racing 200.
Smokestad gets turned around in car number 33, as does Skillman, so no significant damage to either machine.
Well, a little damage that's certainly visible on the machine there of Skillman. So while he circles the track, heads into the pit to see what he can do about the damage to his race car, some very important messages are waiting for you, and we'll be here when you come back.
Pride, serving America's great sports networks.
Just a reminder, when you need them, we got them. Big A, America's Parts Pros.
Pride, serving America's great sports networks.
Racer brings you the art, the science, and the people who make racing the world's most exciting and colorful sport. You can get 12 issues of Racer for only $23.97. That's $6 off our basic subscription rate. Call 800-610-8899 today.
You are careening through the Manhattan skyline in an attempt to repel the invasion of the savage Keshron, when suddenly little Susie comes in wanting to visit the Bear Country Fair. So you pop in Berenstain Bears, and voila, you and Susie are learning to be responsible so you can take a shot at little Freddy. When Billy arrives, needing to research the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. So in goes Compton's Encyclopedia, and you all take a time machine back to the reign of Marcus Aurelius. It's education, games, music, and movies. It's CDI, interactive entertainment for your living room in one handy unit. Plug it in. Play it now. It even plays movies like Forrest Gump. CD for your TV.
Call now to find out how you can get Compton's Interactive Encyclopedia, Space Ace, and the furiously fun new title, Chaos Control. All three worth $180. Free when you buy CDI during this limited time offer. Call now for information.
The only Oldsmobile in the field here for the Port City Racing 200, the machine number 27 of Ray Skillman out of Greenwood, Indiana, in the pits. He was involved in an incident just a few moments ago, and here's what happened out on the racetrack.
Let's see if we can figure it out. We didn't see it. You could see Ted Smokestad just a little bit loose. Skillman tries to take advantage on the low side. A little bit of contact, and he got bumped in the back by Eddie Sharp. So it's one of those chain reaction, one of those deal kind of situations.
One of them deals. Eddie Sharp shot on through while these two got locked together out on the racetrack. We're looking at what happened. What was going on down in the pits, Sandy Hang?
Well, Dave Sensiba just ducked in here, the number 4 car. They believe they have a broken power steering belt. It's going to make it difficult for Sensiba to handle the car tonight. Also, many people making pit stops, Senneker, Harold Fair, many people coming in to put on 2 right-side tires.
Don't you get a kick out of these people talk about how tough it'll be without power steering, and the driver behind the wheel, Carter 88, has never had it. He wouldn't know how to use it.
Well, power steering would be a big help to Dave Sensiba because he's pretty sore, and I understand that, well, we had heard that he had broken some ribs, which he never really confirmed nor denied, but in any case, tugging on that big steering wheel of a race car out there on this short racetrack is not going to be any fun without the power steering. Dave Sensiba probably wishes he did have it.
Now, the other driver who had significant contact last weekend, Dr. Gail Conley, did have some cracked ribs as a result of his ball contact, but he too is racing again tonight. These guys are tough.
We'd also heard that Sensiba's wrist was injured. Further problem, having a saw on that big steering wheel.
Wholesale changes, Brian, just outside the top 2, with the number of drivers electing to come in early for pit stops. And it was now inheriting 3rd position, Glenn Allen Jr. That car now has moved back to 5th after stopping early. That's Scott Hansen in car number 53. So he made up a lot of distance under green. Now he's picked up a number of additional spots as a result of some of the lead lap automobiles making pit stops.
We'd have to say that he's the front runner at the moment for the Dixiana Hard Charger Award, going from 29th to 5th in the course of the race is a pretty good move.
Several rookie drivers having problems early at Berlin include Rick Miller and Ted Smokestad, along with Brett Bell, who's got some damaged bodywork. Brandon Sperling didn't make the race. One rookie who's doing quite well. You can see him in frame there in 4th position right behind Glenn Allen Jr. That's Rick Beebe. But we're right back where we were with this lead battle between Johnny Benson and Mike Eddy. Glenn Allen apparently has decided among lead lap drivers to hang with the leaders and come in when these two do.
Glenn Allen Jr. moves up to 3rd spot and takes over the position that Bob Senneker was using as an observation post, watching Mike Eddy and Johnny Benson Jr. going at it. Down in pit road there, Sandy Hang is with Tom Jones, and that's never a good sign.
Never a good sign to see a driver standing outside his car during the race. What happened, Tom?
Well, I had a power steering pump break early before we raced, and we changed the pump. We put the fitting back on, and one of the lines broke. When it broke, we couldn't find a line. We ran out of time, so we disconnected everything and ran without the power steering. I was a hazard out there. I've taken the car home about 3 times wrecked this year, and I figured it wasn't worth it. We'll regroup for next week up at Brainerd.
Some tough luck here for Tom Jones.
Well, they say if you build a better mousetrap, the world will be the path to your door. I think maybe somebody ought to build a better power steering system. That's been a common theme here tonight so far.
Yeah, it has, and no real explanation that I've heard that made a lot of sense as to why that is a recurring problem for a number of teams. Battle continues for the lead between Johnny Benson and Mike Eddy. He's been close. Glenn Allen now occupies the spot that Bob Senneker had not too long ago in 3rd, waiting for one of them to make an assertive move. Senneker, meanwhile, has come back, we understand, to 10th position after Reffner coming in under this caution, so he's very rapidly working his way back toward the front with over 20 cars still shown on the lead lap.
I thought you were going to say that Glenn Allen Jr. was back there waiting for one of these two guys to make a mistake. I was going to tell you to bite your lip there. These two, mistake isn't in the nomenclature of these two, I don't believe. Johnny Benson Jr. and Mike Eddy. Johnny Benson, 2 years ago, the champion of the American Speed Association, moved on to the Busch Grand National Series, made a pretty impressive debut as a rookie, and now in his second year leads that series. So his skill and talent is very obvious. Mike Eddy, of course, 7 times a champion, has turned down offers. We have elaborated about that many times to go down south and race, and they are the two guys up front.
Brian, the top 5 are relatively close together on the racetrack. Then it's a good distance back to 6th and 7th positions. That's Brian Reffner. He's now in 7th. Right behind him is Eddie Sharp in car number 50. He's 8th and relegated to the high crew. Here comes Bob Senneker, 9th, and very shortly I think he's going to pick up another spot.
And he was way back, buried in the field, so he's making a very impressive move to the front, not unlike Scott Hansen did that we saw just a little while ago.
So are Tony Raines and Brad Loney in cars number 87 and 33 respectively. They're trying to stay right behind Senneker, but not having as easy a time getting around Sharp as Senneker did before them.
So Scott Hansen rounds out the top 5. Then it's a pretty big gap back to the rest. And the battle that we were looking at and continue to watch here involving Bob Senneker, who has in fact moved around now. There's quite a bit of racetrack between them and the 5 cars that are up front.
Dennis Lampman is all by himself in 6th. Bob Senneker now is working to the high side and past Brian Reffner for 7th. Reffner is 8th. 9th is Eddie Sharp. 10th is 07 Todd Forbes. 11th Tony Raines. Brad Loney 12th. 13th is Tony Roper.
Side-by-side action of Johnny Benson's 2-groove racing theory seems to be playing itself out as once again Mike Eddy tries down low and has been able to nudge the nose of his Goodwrench Pontiac around the front end there of Johnny Benson Jr.'s Berger Chevrolet, but I don't think, well, technically speaking, has anyone but Johnny Benson actually led a lap of this race?
Well, I don't know. I guess it's a judgment call on the part of the ASA officials. Mike Eddy, should something happen to the race car, would love to believe that he has picked up 5 bonus points by nosing the bumper ahead at least one time past the start-finish line, and he probably has. Now, Brian, as we near the halfway point of this race, the guy with the advantage, I would say, is Mike Eddy in car number 88. His Goodwrench team is together every week. He has the preferred pit stall tonight with Butch Miller not coming back to defend his championship. Mike Eddy inherits the first pit choice for every race. So if his crew does their typical good job on pit road, he should have a distinct advantage when they finally do make their stops. Here's Dave Sensiva, Harold Fair working on car number 75, and that is Jeff Neal. And Sensiva is now working his way back toward the front, but he had a much later stop than did Senneker, so he had a longer distance to travel to move back into the top 10.
Smokestad rounding out that quartet of cars. He was involved in an incident a while ago. Let's go down once again to Sandy Hain. Talking about pit stops, tires, of course, the issue. Sandy?
Well, that is the issue. After this last round of pit stops, a lot of the crews have been checking the tires, checking for tire wear on this new track surface. You know, they don't know what to expect. Many of the crews feel that might have been their last pit stop. Maybe the last time you see them on. For example, Gary St. Amont's crew thinks the last stop will be their last.
That's pretty interesting. So the drivers that have pitted early may feel as though they're going to run to the finish. But we've also heard, again, I've never been here before, but one of the things that a lot of people said, they've talked about racing here where drivers like Mike Eddy have come in and pitted in the final 20, 30, 40 laps of the race and just shot to the front like rockets, even though they lost 10 or 15 spots in the pits.
What they don't know is we look for this battle for, I think, 7th and 8th positions. Dennis Lampman now being shuffled back a couple more spots as first Todd Forbes, now Brian Reffner try to move him backwards. Now, Lampman had to earn his way into this race through the last chance race, one of only 2 non-Michigan drivers to win at Berlin. His only career ASA victory came 2 seasons ago here, and of course Lampman hails from Wisconsin. The other driver to win here, Jay Sauter, who is not competing this evening after being involved in a heavy incident last weekend in the early going with Tony Roper. They just weren't able to be ready in time for tonight.
I don't think anyone here would dispute the notion that the big fella's in for a run of good luck here, as Dennis Lampman, one of one of the most popular and certainly one of the very skilled veteran drivers here, always willing to help out the rookies and stuff. He has really had his troubles in the early part of this season. We're all looking for Dennis Lampman to have a real nice run here tonight.
This is 8th, 9th, and 10th position. Look at the disparity in the lines of those two drivers. They didn't just take two different lines. There was plenty of room for yet another car between them as Refner way down below the yellow line in turn number 4. And it's awfully difficult to get a car to stick down there. Lampman choosing to go way to the high side. There it is again. Look at that. If Tony Raines was really brave and so inclined, he might try to wedge right in between the two. But his car also seems to be working like Refner's best on the bottom.
Good side-by-side racing with a third person kind of hanging out watching to see what's going on. That's the way it is up front among Johnny Benson Jr., Mike Eddy, and it's Glenn Allen Jr. with the front row seat for that first place battle. And here it's Tony Raines and now Brad Loney moving in for a look at Refner going alongside Dennis Lampman.
Raines is apparently faster than most of these two guys, but not able to get by, at least at this point.
Little bit of wiggle out of the Refner car there as he came around on the inside. Side by side now with Tony Raines, who slides around, made that look pretty easy as Refner got a little bit loose down below. And Raines drove around the high side, and now he's going up towards Dennis Lampman.
Refner, after getting just a bit sideways, Brian, I think he's driving a little more conservatively. May feel that he's got a tire that's either blistering or going down, and he does not want to jeopardize maybe crashing at this point. He'll try to stay out on the racetrack and hope for another caution shortly.
Brad Loney edging back into the picture and starting to move towards the front. He was one of those that pitted rather early in the race. Apparently didn't like the way his car was handling and decided let's fix it early rather than late. Little nudge going on there. Tony Raines side by side with Dennis Lampman. Brad Loney just edging around Brian Refner. We'll come back to this great racing action here as we are just past the halfway mark in the Port City Racing 200. Johnny Benson Jr., Mike Eddy, and Glenn Allen Jr. up front.
My grandfather was already an old man the first time I went fishing with him. My dad whispered, "Watch him cast." And I watched that line go out like a soaring bird. Where'd he learn to do that, I asked. From his father, my dad said, and from Field and Stream. And so it's been since 1895, when Field and Stream was first published.
And now you can continue the tradition with this special TV offer. Call now and get 15 issues of the best in hunting, fishing, and outdoor recreation. Plus special news specifically for your area, all for this great price. Order now and you'll also get this great-looking heavy-duty Field and Stream field bag.
Just the other day, I took my boy fishing for the first time.
Call this number now for a great price on Field and Stream and get this roomy, sturdy field bag free with your paid subscription. Call now.
The top stories and the final word in racing with the highlights and the lowlights. If it's got a motor and somebody races it, chances are you'll find it on Pit Road. The final edition, Sunday nights on this regional sports network.
The AC-Delco Challenge Series, the premier short track racing series, has joined forces with Short Track Racing Magazine, the premier publication geared to short track racing fans. So you win big time. For subscription information, call 1-800-468-7876. Short Track Racing Magazine and the ASA.
Brian, with 113 laps now complete, Johnny Benson has pulled away from Mike Eddy and Glenn Allen Jr. And look who he is closing in on very, very rapidly. The driver who currently resides second in the point standings, Gary St. Amant. He's 16th position and about to lose a lap to Benson. He needs a caution, and he needs it in a hurry.
What a difference a week makes. Gary St. Amant running on a rail last week, was able to fight his way to the finish of last week's race and win his first victory in some years. Well, a little bit of sideways action there, but everybody seems to get it all straightened out and heading in the right direction.
Gary St. Amant has run very well here. In fact, in this race last year, he started 6th and finished 3rd.
He just went a lap down.
And just
almost
did go a lap down, finished 10th in the fall race in Berlin. So this is not something we're accustomed to see happen to Gary here.
Well, he's trying to fight off Johnny Benson. But the inevitable apparently is going to occur as Johnny Benson Jr. moves around. Next victim in his bomb sights there, J.D. Summers. Let's go down once again to Sandy Hang.
Right now what you're looking at is a pool of fluid Shive car. They broke a rear end. Now, drivers are talking on the radios, and some of this might be on the track. They're saying that it's just a little bit slippery. This is what's going on right now. We also have a report on Jeff Neal, car number 75. He got a bad set of tires the last time around, and the power steering is out.
Jeff has had a rough go in the early going in the High Royal split by All City Chevrolet. Much was expected this season, and I'm sure he will still have some good runs. Steve Shive was 4th among rookie drivers, so he does not like to see his night end early in that Rick Cole Enterprises Budweiser Chevy.
There's that power steering thing dropping its head again. That has really been one of the stories in terms of mechanical failures here tonight. We have seen, of course, an engine go down. We had a rear end problem. Here's Todd Forbes trying to work around the outside of Bob Senneker.
And this battle has been going on for about 20 or 25 laps. In just this position, Forbes will try high and then down low. He obviously has a very, very good running race car. He's been strong all night, but both of these drivers have had to come back after making pit stops. They've made their way almost all the way back in 6th and 7th position.
Maybe a week off did him some good. He's rested and ready to go racing out there, and his crew with an extra week to prepare the car without the wear and tear of a race have obviously given him a very good one. The Maystow machine there, the Noah Yoder entry, doing a good job.
And they've closed in on that 5th place car number 53 of Scott Hansen, who was on the charge for a while, and now he begins to drop back in that APCO Racing Wisconsin Aviation Chevy. Scott had to win the last chance race to make his way into this event. We thought those 15 laps would give him a little additional information and make him a factor tonight, and he was for a while, but now he seems to be fading.
Bryan, Ohio's Todd Forbes working to the inside quite easily now, and Senneker trying to line up Scott Hansen for a pass as well. Hansen seems to be stuck on the outside of the racetrack, like you said, Rob, and nothing he can do about everybody driving around on the inside.
Bob Senneker also had been making the charge. Remember, he was back in 24th position on the restart. He's now up to 7th, but it's Forbes, the guy that is spiriting away from both Bob Senneker and Scott Hansen, so Forbes really has that Ford cranked up.
Johnny Benson Jr. running away with it from the front here. Remember, however, he has not pitted at all. So we would have to expect that he's going to have to come in sooner or later, as will several of the cars that have run up front all night and have not yet come in for any kind of scheduled stop.
Theoretically, Brian, I've often heard that these cars can run just about 100 miles under optimum conditions on a load of fuel. This race, in fact, is only 87.5 miles in length. So you might wonder, could they stretch it all the way on fuel? And even if they could, what's going to happen with the tire situation? We'll no doubt have another caution, but if we don't, my word, it could get very, very interesting for these drivers who have yet to pit.
Why am I hearing the famous words of Clint Eastwood right now? Do you feel lucky, punk? With the little red needle pointing to E, do you feel lucky? Can you go all the way on a tank of gas here at Berlin Raceway?
Todd Forbes just went by us with the engine not sounding up to full song in car number 07, and he's dropped back. And now Brad Loney is about to lose a lap to Johnny Benson Jr., and Brad had been running very, very strongly after his pit stop.
Johnny Benson Jr., when and if he does have to pit, will not have very many cars to deal with on the lead lap, because he is going through the field like Pac-Man right now, just taking them out one by one.
It is amazing how quickly he has put a lap on Brian Refner, Tony Roper, Kent Stauffer in car number 98. And now he is pulled to about a half straightaway advantage over second place car number 88, Mike Eddy, and another half straightaway back, and we've got a yellow, and it is Harold Fair spinning coming off turn number 4, and this is exactly what Johnny Benson, Mike Eddy, and Glenn Allen Jr. needed.
So Harold Fair provides the opportunity for the leaders to pit under a caution flag if they should so choose. And as the caution flag waves, apparently no particular contact by Harold Fair, and the leaders, in fact, going in, one right behind the other.
You just saw Glenn Allen Jr., Johnny Benson, and Mike Eddy all on pit road. There is Benson's crew, and Sandy Heng is on the scene.
I'm right down here at Mike Eddy's pit. He's taking on 2 right side tires and fuel. And right next to me, Glenn Allen Jr. is also taking on 2 right side tires and fuel. You can see several cars are coming in down here on pit lane. Some of them have already been in, such as Scott Hansen has already been in a couple times. He's also taking on 2 sets of tires. Gary St. Amant had some tough luck. He went a couple laps down because last time he took on a bad set of tires.
We talked about the importance of pit location and also the importance of crews being able to work on these cars. Benson goes in first, comes out third behind both Mike Eddy and Glenn Allen Jr.
You called that one, so now the lead has changed. The leaders have all pitted. We would assume that everyone can run to the checkers right now. We'll be back for that in a moment.
Introducing Feel the Love, 40 truly passionate songs by today's most popular artists. Feel the Love, 40 hits on 3 cassettes or 3 CDs. Here's how to order.
Call toll-free 1-800-522-5333. Call from the U.S. or Canada. That's 1-800-522-5333. Or send $19.95 for 3 cassettes or $26.95 for 3 CDs, plus $4.50 shipping and handling to the address on your screen.
You don't have to be 19 to have a body like this. You don't have to work out 8 hours a day. You don't have to be narcissistic or shallow. In fact, all you really need is $39 a month. The SoloFlex Muscle Machine. What are you waiting for?
America's premier short track racing living up to its name here at Berlin Raceway in Western Michigan. We're under caution. Here's why.
It was Harold Fair's car number 81 coming off turn number 4. Yeah, he'll come in a minute. He was trying to get underneath. It looks like James Powell's car number 2 spins right in front of Bill Baird. No harm, no foul, but it was exactly what many of the cars on the lead lap wanted.
And down on pit road where all the action ensued immediately after Harold Fair's activity was Sandy Hanks. Andy?
Well, there's a lot of cars that came in on this last yellow, and one of the things that happens here in the exit to pit row, it gets congested, very congested, and there have been fender benders here in the past. You can see the skid marks here on the road where cars have had to just slam on the brakes to avoid having one of these pit row accidents. And of course, that's the worst thing a driver could want, an accident on pit row.
Well, we did see Glenn Allen Jr. peeling out of there. He looked like John Force's funny car going out of the pits and a drag strip performance. But we are sorting out the shuffle after many of the leaders went in and pitted. A number of drivers that did not, of course, will now move a little bit further forward in the field. But some pretty incredible pit stop work down there, apparently, from what I'm hearing, Rob Albright.
Well, it's interesting the way things have materialized. A number of drivers have been able to get back on the lead lap, including Brad Loney, Brian Refner, Tony Roper, Kent Stauffer, Gary St. Amant, but they're at the tail end of the lead lap. Bob Senneker is the new leader, but Mike Eddy came in second and came out, in fact, in second position after a great pit stop. Glenn Allen third and Johnny Benson fourth. So these guys are ready to roll to the checker now.
Well, there's a lot of fans here that will trade their allegiance for Johnny Benson Jr. for now for Bob Senneker, because he is a very popular guy around here. His brother races out here in the late model local category. There are actually 3 racing Senneker.
And Brian, it looks like Mike Eddy is going to take the lead very quickly from Bob Senneker on this restart. Goes to the low side, and with fresher tires, he and Glenn Allen Jr. both have forced Senneker out high and slide by on the inside.
Man, oh man, that was a very quick observation there.
It happened so fast.
Believe me. And really caught on the outside in a revolving door. Here's another caution is going to come out. Now for the guys on the tail end of the lead lap that were in fact in the front of the field, this is going to be an opportunity, am I not correct?
Absolutely.
That they can go around and improve their position.
Unfortunately, it's bad news for Bob Senneker, who's shedding fiberglass body pieces, a flat left rear tire, as he tangled with a couple of cars, Ray Skillman and the number 26 machine at Bill Baird. Senneker was going backwards. He, I think, just showed a little displeasure, maybe perhaps with Ray Skillman, or perhaps Ray just trying to get to the bottom of the racetrack.
Well, Ray made a hard left turn to get in there as Senneker's going around in the field trying to get back to the pace car. And here is Bill Baird, the 26 machine. He's got some serious problems, some agricultural modification minus a tire.
And there's Ray Skillman. He's bringing that Kendall machine on pit road. And not surprisingly, the drivers who are about to go a lap down have come in. Sandy Hang, what's the situation with Bob?
Well, right now, Bob Senneker has just come in. He was involved in that tangle. As you can see, they're taking on 2 right-side tires. There's also some cosmetic damage to the rear end. They're looking at it, trying to rip off that rear end, trying to keep it all together to get it back on the track.
And there is the signal for Bob Senneker. Well, the tail end of that race car is still very much hanging off the back of the car. Let's take a look at just exactly what happened, or at least part of it anyway. There's Senneker in the middle of the screen, the blue car. And he gets tangled up. Certainly Skillman kind of came, well, I'm not sure if Skillman came down. Certainly Bob Senneker got tagged, and tagged hard by Dennis Lampman from the back. Everybody's scattering every which way out here, trying to avoid the car of Skillman facing backwards on the racetrack. Now, that's actually Bill Baird's car, I believe, facing the wrong way at this point.
Yeah, I think Brett Bell might have been involved there near the end on the high side of the racetrack. Our camera was a little bit distant to catch everybody's numbers as they went by. But the work continues on Bob Senneker's car. And Sandy, it does not look good.
No, it doesn't look good because, as I mentioned, that they were trying to put the rear end back on, and now they're using good old tape to keep the whole thing together. Also a story about Todd Forbes. You might have been noticing Todd has been coming in about every 60 laps. They're having a fuel pickup problem, so he's going to have to continually come in, pick up fuel.
As the Johnsonville Sausage Bluebird number 84, one of the most popular drivers and cars here in the history of this place, heads back out on the racetrack. We're going to head out for a quick pit stop ourselves.
Goodyear wins the Indy 500.
It's the greatest race in the world, and winning it gives you a feeling you just can't imagine. Just incredible. Unbelievable. And we had exactly what we needed to get to the finish line first, including our Goodyear Eagles, the tires that know how to win at Indy.
Goodyear, #1 at the Indy 500 24 years straight.
In my lifetime, there's only been one tire legend at Indy, and that's Goodyear.
Mother's California Gold, finest cleaners, polishes, and finish restorers. Carnauba wax protects and shines. Easy to apply, looks great.
California Gold, there's no shine like Mother's.
What vitamins do for your body, VitaWins does for your car.
The top stories and the final word in racing with the highlights and the lowlights. If it's got a motor and somebody races it, chances are you'll find it on Pit Road. The final edition, Sunday nights on this regional sports network.
Mike Eddy, Glenn Allen Jr. and Johnny Benson Jr. get the green flag just as you rejoin us here live on Prime for the Port City Racing 200. We are approaching the final 50 laps, and much like the fourth quarter of an NBA game, this is where everything comes down to the wire and where it really all counts. Everything that's gone on before has served to set it up. Set it up for us, Rob Albright.
Well, I guess the best way to set it up is that the adopted local boy, Glenn Allen Jr., now has the unenviable task of challenging Mike Eddy for the lead, and native son Johnny Benson sits behind them in third position. With the sequence of pit stops, we're showing Brian 13 cars on the lead lap. Mike Eddy, Glenn Allen, Johnny Benson, Tony Raines is fourth, Scott Hansen fifth, sixth is rookie Rick Beebe, seventh is Todd Forbes, Kent Stauffer eighth, ninth is Gary St. Amant, 10th is Brad Loney, 11th Brian Refner, 12th is Tony Roper, and 13th, the last lead lap automobile we're showing.
Bob Senneker went in and out of the pits at least twice and maybe three times during that caution to get the rear end of his race car repaired. Glenn Allen Jr. trying to challenge Mike Eddy there. Mike Eddy has won 11 out of 26 times he has visited this racetrack. That's a pretty good record. We'd have to say he knows how to win at Berlin Raceway.
Yeah, and since the people here are not in general really big Mike Eddy fans, I think that gives him just a little additional incentive every time he comes here.
Well, they have to give him grudging respect, if nothing else, for his ability to win, not only here, but just about anywhere that the black 88 car has gone and has come up a winner.
I'll tell you, when you look at the history book here at Berlin Raceway, you see 4 names: Mike Eddy, Butch Miller, Bob Senneker, and Johnny Benson Jr. as Benson now begins to put the heat on Glenn Allen for 2nd position.
Johnny Benson Jr., who had led virtually the entire first, well, I'm sure that the know-it-all brothers could tell us how many laps he led. And now he has made the pass on Glenn Allen Jr. for 2nd place. So the fans are, the hopes of the fans here that are Johnny Benson Jr. fans, Grand Rapids, Michigan is just a couple of miles away. So their hometown driver moving forward to challenge Mike Eddy again is what has brought many of them to their feet.
Remember, these drivers have only had an opportunity to change 2 tires, but apparently it was the right choice for Mike Eddy. And you know, when I saw them come on pit road, it looked like Eddy and Glenn Allen both changed right sides, and I may have been mistaken, but I think that Johnny Benson took on left side tires. If that's in fact the case, he may be at a disadvantage as we get to the final 20 or 30 laps of this race.
Clearly, Johnny Benson Jr. is encouraged by the cheers and the warmth of the fans here. Mike Eddy hears more boos than anything else. Do they bother him? Well, we asked him before the start of the race.
Part of any sport, you know, is the people up there, they pay their money to make their noise, whatever it may be. And, you know, and I think if you hold that against them, then, you know, fans are here to race, here to watch the races, and, you know, not everybody can cheer for the same person, or it wouldn't be very exciting.
He just has this earthy philosophy about anything. It doesn't matter what it is. It's exactly what you'd expect it to be. You know, you ask him a question, you think, well, maybe you'll have something, you know, really ethereal, really thought-provoking, but he tells you exactly what it's like.
And he actually does get a real chuckle out of his reception here at this place. Of course, I'm a newcomer, so I got a chuckle out of it just hearing the stories. And then when I saw it for myself, I went down and I said to him, I said, Mike, you know, this really is something else. And he said, isn't it though? Isn't it great? And there you heard the summation as he put it. Fans come here to make their noise, and whatever noise they make is okay with him.
Well, there's Gary St. Amant running in 10th position, and Mike Miller is being used as a buffer as Mike is a couple of laps down after having to stop on green to change a flat right front tire. Brian Refner is in 11th position in car number 5 and trying to take the high side around Mike Miller. And Gary St. Amant's car only seems to be able to work in one line around this racetrack. Anytime he has to work up high to get around somebody, he seems to have great difficulty doing it.
Trying to saw the front end off the 18 car just a teeny little bit there. Mike had to back out. Mike Miller, that is, had to back out. Gary St. Amant making a clear, clean pass now, and Refner trying to move on the outside. Those guys racing for position on the lead lap, as you mentioned, while Mike Miller, 2nd in points early in the season, had a bad run of luck in the last several races, and he is a lap or 2 down here in this one.
The guy that you have to feel for just a little bit is that silver and blue machine of Todd Forbes. He was definitely a top 4 or 5 car tonight, but with that fuel pickup problem, he's now relegated to about an 11th place at this point, and a long way to go to get back to the front.
You mentioned very quickly, and I want to emphasize Rick Beebe in the number 6 car out there. He is from Kansas. He is in the Engine Armor Chevrolet. And while Rick Miller and J.D. Summers had led the rookie points battle throughout the early part of this season, Rick Beebe missed a race because a flat tire cost him in qualifying. He was not able to make it. He has said that might have been a $50,000 tire. Now Rick Beebe, being shown in 5th position on the racetrack, is making the run for this rookie battle, and many thought he would in that number 6 car. We'll see him in a minute. Here's a battle for 3rd, and Glenn Allen Jr. getting the inside run from number 87, Tony Raines. Sandy Hang, a comment about Glenn Allen Jr.?
Well, Glenn Allen Jr.'s crew says that he's just too tight, and they don't think they have enough laps left to loosen up the car, so he's battling a tough situation right now.
He has just given up 3rd position to Tony Raines. That time as they came by the start-finish line side by side. And here's Mike Eddy beginning to feel some heat once again from Johnny Benson. Now, Eddy had stepped it out to about a 7 or 8 car length lead, but in traffic, it is Benson who's been able to close up, and Raines has not been able yet to make the pass. You could really see Glenn Allen fighting that race car coming off turn number 4, trying to make it loose. He'll drive it into the corner and actually drive it deeper than he would to pitch that rear end of the car out to try to keep it from pushing its way up the racetrack, but he's not been able to be successful.
Well, you'll never see a white flag waving out the window of the number 15 car there. Glenn Allen Jr. will fight with everything he has to hold off Tony Raines. But again, with Raines, apparently the car is handling much better. The 87 machine there, the clean burn entry, while Glenn Allen Jr. fighting a somewhat ill-handling race car by the admission of his own crew. Now, the fans are jumping up and down here. Of course, the bad news a little while ago was that Bob Senneker went a lap down to the leader, Mike Eddy, and now Johnny Benson, who has moved right to the bumper of Mike Eddy.
Quickly, he caught Eddy, and Eddy a little out of shape as he gets a bump from Dennis Lampman in car number 9.
Well, that brought them to their feet, too, there. Again, we have to keep emphasizing that it is not us that is down on Mike Eddy here. Everybody respects him, but the fans here at Berlin Raceway just take particular delight in misfortune should any occur to the 88 car.
I'm kind of glad I'm not Ed Collins and Joel McKee in the truck trying to decide which one of these battles to keep the camera trained on.
They're all over the racetrack.
They go to this third place battle, and something will heat up in front. Again, Tony Raines pulls alongside Glenn Allen Jr., tries to take away that third position, but this track just doesn't allow you to run a single line, either high or low, and make it work to advantage.
Now, are they going door handle to door handle there? Somebody came up to me and said, you can use door panel to door panel.
There you go. You can say anything you want. I just want to make sure you are still awake.
I'll tell you, anybody that fell, oh, look at this now. Glenn Allen Jr. again battling an ill-handling car there. He got a little bit weird. Now, Raines has definitely moved inside. Sandy, hang with more.
Crews down here believe that someone is leaking fluid on the track. It's making it a little slippery right now, so some of the drivers are also battling with that.
Well, we're seeing evidence of something now. We heard that Glenn Allen Jr.'s car was ill-handling, but if we see anybody else out there kind of surfing around a little bit, we'll have to believe that there is, in fact, fluid on the racetrack somewhere.
And now the positions have swapped. Earlier it was Johnny Benson leading, Mike Eddy trying to make the low groove work. Now it's Eddy leading this race, and Benson trying to get alongside on the bottom of the racetrack. Now Benson has been able to make his car work better in traffic. Let's see if, again, he can use lapped machines, which loom large in front of them, to his advantage and maybe wrestle that top spot away as they put a lap on John O'Neill.
Mike Eddy trying to defend the lead position right now. Johnny Benson also moving easily around John O'Neill, a rookie driver, not only for the Rookie of the Year, but he had never raced here before. He was a guy pretty wide-eyed with excitement after the few laps of practice that he had for the first time at this racetrack. John O'Neill in the 71 car a lap down, a victim of the battle for the lead by Mike Eddy and Johnny Benson Jr.
While this one is quieted down for the moment, apparently, third position is still, well, it was side-by-side. Now Glenn Allen again about a car length advantage over Tony Raines, but perhaps not for long, as Tony points the nose of that clean burn AFCO Pontiac down to the bottom side.
No surrender by Glenn Allen Jr. Take no prisoners for Tony Raines. Oh, a lot of good close racing here for position. And we have a car turned around up on the racetrack there, the number 50 car of Eddy Sharp, kind of a stablemate of Johnny Benson Jr., who's racing for the lead. Here's Eddy Sharp, Pat Shower Memorial Rookie of the Year contender in the number 50 car.
And Eddy, again, one of those top-ranked rookie drivers. He was trying to keep from losing a second lap to Mike Eddy. And there might have been just a little contact between the 88 and 50. I'm sure we'll have another chance to look at it.
We'll take a look at it when we come back from some very important commercial messages. We're looking at the final 20 laps of this race in a minute.
Most trackers can follow the trail only as long as the weather holds out. Unless it's a tracker spurred on with genuine AC spark plugs. AC plugs fire faster than lightning for performance so smooth, even the thunder claps. And that'll keep your engine on the trail to a longer life.
Call 1-800-AC-Delco. It's like buying time.
So better track down some AC spark plugs.
Racing Electronics is the official supplier of electronic equipment for the American Speed Association. Whether it's ASA, NASCAR, SCCA, or NHRA, racers and race fans alike depend on Racing Electronics. The same electronic gear that your favorite race teams use is available to you. Just call 1-800-272-7111 and a representative will send you a free full-color 32-page catalog. Call 1-800-272-7111 for Racing Electronics, racing's leading supplier of electronic equipment.
Whatever happened to the American dream?
The dream that said hard work counted for as much as deep pockets, that if you learned the ropes and believed in yourself, you could become a sports hero without being blessed with $1 million deal.
The AC-Delco Challenge Series, America's premier short track stock car series on Prime. On Saturday, July 8th at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, watch the Salem 200 live. That's ASA Stock Car Racing, Saturday, July 8th on Prime.
Prime, serving America's great sports networks.
Racer brings you the art, the science, and the people who make racing the world's most exciting and colorful sport. You can get 12 issues of Racer for only $23.97. That's $6 off our basic subscription rate. Call 800-610-8899 today.
You know, when you're a rookie at Berlin Raceway, you have two goals. Come here, make the race, and run 200 laps and load it in one piece. What you don't want to do is spin in front of the veterans. And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened for Eddie Sharp there in the Sharp Racing Thunderbird. Barely avoids heavy contact with race leader Mike Eddy as Johnny Benson also scoots by on the low side. So I'm sure not only did Eddie Sharp breathe a sigh of relief, so did Mike Eddy and Johnny B.
Well, he barely avoided contact with the wall on the tail end of that car, so if he can hang on for another 15 laps, he will be able to load that car in one piece with no damage.
11 cars, Brian, as we're preparing to go back to green on the lead lap. It's Mike Eddy, the leader, followed by Johnny Benson, Glenn Allen Jr., and Tony Raines. Rick Beebe runs 5th. 6th is Brad Loney. 7th is Kent Stauffer. 8th is Brian Reffner. 9th is Tony Roper. 10th is Scott Hansen. And 11th, Gary St. Amant. And both Hansen and St. Amant surprisingly came in for fresh right side tires, Sandy Hank tells us.
Well, she also tells us that in talking to the crew of Glenn Allen Jr., he says the car is loose. It might be too loose for him to hold off. And so we're going to have to watch very carefully the number 15 machine out there. There's Mike Eddy. There's Johnny Benson Jr. These two have battled for an ASA championship and many victories among them here. Not only at this racetrack, but at several others. Mike Eddy, of course, shall we say, not the favorite among the crowd, and Johnny Benson Jr. certainly is the favorite with the fans here at Berlin Raceway. Well, so they are being set up for a terrific final 13 laps.
You know, Benson, I think, can Brian throw caution to the wind here in these last dozen circuits. He's not running for points in ASA. He's running for the pride of winning again in front of his home crowd and for beating a guy that has for many seasons been an arch rival in his former days. And he's alongside and may have the lead coming off turn 4.
He sure stuffed it under there clean and close, and the crowd came to its feet. He has taken the lead with 11 laps to go at Berlin Raceway, and now the fans can relax perhaps just a little bit. They can collectively unclench their fists.
I don't think so.
Well, maybe not.
Mike Eddy not giving it up easily, goes back to the low side, and early in the race, this is the posture these two drivers occupied. Eddy trying to do it just the way Benson did 2 laps ago. Benson fighting him on the high side.
Squeaky clean racing so far. Of course, a lot of the reason why Mike Eddy is less than popular here is that some of these people feel like he is bumped and nudged, just have been a little too aggressive for their taste. But these two guys are just squeaky clean, running hard and fast at the front of this race with 9 laps to go.
9 circuits remaining. Johnny Benson wants to get it done. Eddy wants to do it once again here at Berlin Raceway and confound the locals. And sitting there waiting for the mistake is Glenn Allen Jr. He's 3rd. He's managed to put some distance between himself and Tony Raines. He can see this now about 10 car lengths in front of him.
What a battle side by side. The two-groove racing has certainly come to life in a very big way here. As we wind the laps down, we're closing in on 6 circuits, and regardless of what happens, we will finish 5 laps under green, even if a caution comes out at this point in the race.
Brian, lap traffic should not play a factor at the end of this race. Jeff Neal is off the pace, but nobody then for about a straightaway in front of Johnny Benson and Mike Eddy.
So the track is clear and clean ahead of these two as Johnny Benson Jr. maintains the lead here over Mike Eddy. Mike Eddy trying to make a last desperate pass here. He shows in the inside, a little bit of contact there, but no damage done. Johnny Benson Jr. in the number 21 car, the Berger Chevrolet Benson Speed, and that is one of the Lumina-bodied automobiles. And then it is the GM Goodwrench HRE Pontiac of Mike Eddy.
And one one of Johnny Benson's biggest fans who has supported him in his transition to Busch Grand National Racing is Matt Berger, who owns the local Chevrolet dealership in Grand Rapids. He's on his feet along with a near capacity. Well, let's face it, it's a standing room only crowd, and they are all on their feet now with just 4 laps to go. 3 this time by for Benson and Eddy.
Every tool chest and war wagon in the infield is occupied to capacity too, as all the pit crews are on their feet watching racing. They are no longer pit crews. They are race fans along with everybody in the grandstands. We're coming around now with 2 laps to go. It is still Johnny Benson Jr. staving off the attack of Mike Eddy.
And Glenn Allen closing in car number 15. He's not going to have enough time to catch them. He can only hope that they'll bump each other and allow him an opportunity to pass. He's reeling them in. Tony Raines 4th. Brad Loney has come to 5th in car number 33. Bring him home, Brian.
The run to the checkers will take about 16 seconds as Johnny Benson Jr. works around the outside of Jeff Neal's car. Mike Eddy tries to show him the outside. Benson moves up to defend the high line. Here they come into the final corner, and with Mike Eddy trying to poke the nose on the inside, he'll come up short by a car length. And Johnny Benson Jr., much to the delight of the fans here of his nearby hometown of Grand Rapids, Michigan, has earned a victory on the Berlin Raceway, and he has earned it over the man that many people came here to see defeated tonight. The Mike Eddy, the 7-time champion of the American Speed Association, will not get his 12th victory tonight. But we will take a cutaway here to squeeze in some more messages. We'll be back to talk to the winners and the rest right after this.
There is a place pilots talk about, but few have ever been. It's a place where training, aircraft design, indeed a pilot's ability to stay cool, are put to the absolute test. Presenting the Challenge of Flight, an exclusive new series that takes you where no aviation videos have ever gone before. Start with Final Approach. Be there when it all goes wrong, when raw power, fear, and the ejection seat is all the pilot has left. In incredible detail and first-hand accounts, you'll see what happens low and slow over a pitching carrier deck. Gear up with nowhere to go. And in the bunker when you test how bad it can be. Be an eyewitness to history as you watch exclusive footage declassified and released here for the very first time. Order your copy of Final Approach and go where few pilots have ever been before.
Use your credit card and call 1-800-352-2121. Other tapes will follow. Cancel anytime. There's no obligation. Call now 1-800-352-2121.
Major League Baseball takes the field, bringing you the latest from the diamond. It's all hits, runs, and no errors as Fruit presents Pennant Chase. Catch the excitement all season on this regional sports network.
Johnny Benson Jr. has climbed out of the winning automobile here in the Port City 200 and will be the first guest of what we're now going to call the Sandy Hang Show. Sandy?
Well, I tell you what, Johnny, how did you hold Mike Eddy off through all of this?
Hold him off. I had to pass him. I'll tell you what, Mike, he did an awesome job. Raced me real clean. We had fun. Port City Racing, Berger Chevrolet. Man, I couldn't ask for anything better. Chevrolet helping us out. Crew did a good job. You know, this car's just been sitting up here all winter. We ran Toledo with it. Man, it's great.
Well, the last couple of laps, it looked like he started to get under you a little bit. Were you worried? How were you keeping him at bay?
Well, I don't know. Earlier, he was trying to get underneath me, and the outside worked pretty good. If he got underneath me, we'd just race on the outside on him. Like I say, Mike did a great job. You know, he had ran good. We ran good. You know, like I say, we're just happy to be in victory lane here in hometown.
Well, if you can hear the crowd out there, they're very happy for this victory. You know, before, it's deafening out here. We talked to you earlier about how the track has changed with the new surfacing, and you said, you know, some things never change. That's the groove. Where did you find it the best to drive on this new resurfaced track?
Well, I'll tell you what, you know, when I went to ASA, we come back here, the track was, you know, getting different, and this track was just like when I used to run here weekly with Freddie Campbell and Bruce Vanderlaan. Back with them guys, the track was just like that. And, man, the old days just come back into swing there. We're a little tight. We could have been a little quicker at the end, but Mike run us hard. You know, like I say, we're just happy to be in victory lane. And here at the home crowd, you know, I can't ask for a better deal.
Okay, that's Johnny Benson Jr. in victory lane.
Kind of, Brian, an early birthday present. He's just a week away from celebrating his 32nd birthday, and the world right now is Johnny Benson's oyster, as everywhere he goes racing. he seems to be out in front.
We'll come back with a lot more from Berlin Raceway here. The festivities are just beginning, and the afterglow has not even begun to dim. Join us.
What vitamins do for your body, VitaWins does for your car.
Take high-performance sports car technology and combine it with the #1 name in motorhomes, and what do you get? The exciting new Rialta from Winnebago Industries, the official motorhomes of NASCAR. The fuel-efficient Rialta features front-wheel drive maneuverability, great towing capacity, a unique floor plan, and is fully self-contained. So whether you're following the NASCAR circuit or enjoying America, the Rialta is built for you. For more information, call 1-800-643-4892. The new Rialta, it's more than a motorhome.
Hit the beach. The top surfers are carving up the bays, kicking it out, and wowing them in big-time board action. Hang 10 with a hip scene in the Bud Pro Surf Tour, dude. Watch the waves with a few buds on this regional sports network.
A look at the top 10 here for the Port City 200. Johnny Benson Jr.'s very popular victory here. Came at, well, with some great racing side by side there with Mike Eddy. Glenn Allen Jr. just not quite enough to get up there. Tony Raines, well, and Brad Loney coming like a freight train towards the end of the race there, as you mentioned, Rob. I hadn't even noticed it. You, of course, did. Rick Beebe, well, his stock rising way up there as his performance, top rookie tonight. Gary St. Amant, last week's winner, battled back with an ill-handling race car, went a lap down. He's there.
Kent Stauffer finishing in 8th position. Of course, St. Amant and Hansen stopping late. And Tony Roper, it's about time, the kid from Missouri,
Amen.
Had a finish. I know he would have liked to run better than that here tonight, but he can kind of build from this one here this evening.
A step in the right direction for Tony Roper in the number 10 machine there, rounding out the top 10.
You know, one thing we didn't hurt at all today is our total margin of victory in 5 races. Total margin for 5 events was 0.95 seconds, less than 1 second. And I don't think we went over a second. That has to be about a couple thousandths, I think, the margin tonight.
That's pretty close, and the fans certainly got their money's worth here tonight. Well, and a lot of them enjoyed the battle at the end of the race. They enjoyed the racing throughout, and while many drivers don't enjoy being a guest of Sandy Hain during the race, afterwards it's got to be a pleasure. Sandy?
Well, it is a pleasure to interview someone like Mike Eddy. It was a thrilling ending, Mike. What were you thinking those last few laps?
Well, I was thinking that if I don't get back in front of him, he's going to win the race.
And there you have it.
Yeah, well, you know, you don't get to race Johnny much anymore. Do you miss racing with Johnny? What's that like?
Well, you know, it's fun to race with good drivers. You know, I ain't saying ASA don't have good drivers, but it's always nice to have the good ones come in and race with us. You know, it's a lot of fun to race with people like Johnny. You know, he always runs good and makes for good competition. And you know, I was behind the wheel of this car, but I got to believe if I was standing out there watching, it had to have been a really good race to watch.
A lot of times we see at this racetrack, drivers go through a lot of tires. I mean, you've done that in the past, put on a new set, just come right to the front. Tonight we didn't see quite as much as that. What do you think that's due to?
Well, this new asphalt is really easy on them Goodyear Eagles, so you know, tire wear was no problem. Probably if you were changing a lot, it's because they were the wrong size and you were trying to correct your car. But if your tires were the right size, they would have run the whole race.
Okay, that's Mike Eddy taking in a second-place finish today.
And a smile on the face of the man they call the Polar Bear, and A lot of folks getting ready to gather around down there, a very warm and friendly crowd. We've got to quickly get to the fourth member of our broadcast team, Josh Duval, and our Young Racers feature involving Mike Eddy.
Hi, I'm Josh Duval, and I'm here with Matt Eddy, son of Mike Eddy, 7-time ASA champion. So, what's it like to be the son of a champion?
Well, I guess it's pretty much like being anybody else, except for you get to have more fun and come to the races.
Do you have a personal interest in racing at all?
Well, at home we have a go-kart track, and I race go-karts quite a bit.
So, do you want to be a driver when you get older, you think?
Yeah, I think I might want to be a race car driver.
And we're here at Berlin Raceway, so I got a question about here. Why does everybody always boo your dad?
Well, I guess it's because we usually run so good here and we win a lot.
Thanks. If you have a question about racing, send it to me at The Young Racers, P.O. Box 26792, Charlotte, North Carolina 28221.
There it is, the winning entry. Mike Eddy has climbed out from behind the wheel to enjoy the accolades and all of the spoils of victory, well, near victory, that go on. This is the man that won. We'll be right back.
Discover the defensive training secrets of America's finest baseball school in an exciting videotape. Baseball World's Defensive Drills video features professional scout and instructor Tommy Mansky and the same revolutionary new training techniques that have produced Baseball World's back-to-back-to-back AAU national championship teams. The Defensive Drills video vastly improves players' arm strength, running speed, quickness, agility, and infield and outfield defensive skills. Even coaches practice organization. Lou Pavlovich, Jr., editor of Collegiate Baseball magazine, calls it a masterpiece, the best defensive drill video ever produced. Many professional players are excited about this videotape. Just ask Atlanta Braves superstar Fred McGriff.
This is the instructional video that gets results.
Baseball World's Defensive Drills video makes a great gift and benefits players of all ages and ability levels. To order your copy for only $29.95, have your credit card ready and call toll-free. 1-800-352-2121. 352-2121.
It really worked for me.
I'm Jack Nicklaus, and I've just joined Golf Magazine as special contributor. You can join Golf Magazine, too.
Call now for Golf Magazine, and you'll also get absolutely free Jack's video playing the percentages, an insider's guide to improving your game. Jack, it's great to have you on the Golf Magazine team. Where should we look for you in upcoming issues?
Where else? The golf course.
We've talked to the winner, we've talked to the runner-up, and now Sandy Hang is moving on down the podium with yet another guest, our third-place finisher, Glenn Allen Jr.
Well, Glenn's here with me right now. Glenn, I was talking to your crew throughout the race. At first, you were tight, and then you were just looser than all get out. What happened with your car there at the very end?
Well, we started the race, and the car was tight, like you said. We added more stagger to the back of the car to make the car turn a little bit better. And here with the 200-lap race, we knew it was going to be a one pit stop. So we kind of rolled the dice and made a big change where we should have made a smaller change. But the Eaglewood Construction, CarQuest Auto Parts, Pontiac ran good for us. The chassis was just off a little bit, but that was my fault. And definitely come back here for the 300-lap where we're going to be a lot better.
What about the final laps? You and Tony Raines were really duking it out there, and it was anyone's guess who was going to be able to take that spot. What happened?
Well, basically, I couldn't run on the bottom. The car was really loose, so I give the bottom to him, and I ran the top, and I tried to keep cutting off the corner where he couldn't use all the accelerator down the straightaway, getting off the corners. So I just did that just right, and we really had a hard race. He had a little better car than I did, but he just couldn't get off the corner because I was keeping him from getting there. But once the caution came out after that, our car tightened up. The tires finally cooled down. They grew a little bit with the bleeders that we have in the tires, and the circumferences got smaller, and it really helped us out because the car really started working. I'd like to see another probably 20 more green laps, and we'd have been a lot better off.
Okay, thanks. That's Glenn Allen Jr. with the third-place finish tonight.
So a veteran driver and sandwiched in between a couple of young drivers, although you'd hardly call Johnny Benson Jr. A veteran. he certainly has a lot of experience that has led to yet another victory here in the American Speed Association on kind of a reprise. He comes racing with us every chance he gets.
In fact, the last time he was here, he finished 6th, but he won this same race a year ago in June. Here is, again, the unofficial top 5. We're going to be able to take you well deep into the field, maybe all the way through here. Johnny Benson Jr., Mike Eddy, Glenn Allen Jr., Tony Raines, another strong performance, and Brad Loney, who came a long way in the last 10 laps to finish 5th.
A very unusual race. There's Rick Beebe, top rookie finisher, and again could very well move himself to the top of the rookie points. Gary St. Amant, last week's winner, comes up, well, number 7 in 7th place. That happens every now and then. Kent Stauffer, we never mentioned him once during the course of the entire race. That has often happened, too, for Kent Stauffer. A very workmanlike job for him to finish an 8th spot ahead of Scott Hansen. And Tony Roper finishing a string of bad luck there with a 10th place finish.
11th through 15th, Brian Refner, who I think made as many pit stops as anybody tonight. And another guy who at one point was a lap down, was able to use timely cautions to move back into the top 15. Dennis Lampman, 12th. Todd Forbes, who had a better car than a 13th place finish. Bob Senneker, who had his share of bad luck. And J.D. Summers finishes 15th, the second highest finishing rookie tonight.
Looking now a little deeper into 16th through 20th place, Harold Fair, of course, involved in an incident late in the race, was able to come back. Dave Sensiba, who started way up front in the race, started 5th. Moved all the way back to 17th. We chronicled his troubles. There's Mike Miller, number 18, finishes 18th. He had some trouble, had to pit under green early for a flat tire, and otherwise might have had a much better finish. Eddie Sharp goes around, almost took out the 2 leaders, but didn't. And then James Powell making his ASA debut, I believe, with the 20th place spot.
Not too bad for the Floridian. John O'Neill making his second ASA start in the former A.J. Cooper machine, 21st. Ted Smokestad, 22nd in car number 32, followed by Bill Baird, Jeff Neal, who had all kinds of problems all night long, and Brett Bell, who finished the race, in fact, finished 2/3 of the race without the front body work on car number 56.
32 cars started the race, so we're certainly working our way down to those that might have retired early. Ray Skillman was still around at the end. Steve Shive, well, we saw his car putting out a lot of fluid there. Tom Jones, the Zero Hero, coming up in 28th spot. Pat Bordeaux, tough break for the young driver in the number 44 car. And Rick Miller, the former rookie points leader, and I say former only because we have not yet seen the points tally, but it's likely that he'll move down.
Absolutely. Rick Beebe and J.D. Summers, the only rookies to have really decent evenings. Yale Conley, of course, and Joe Knott. Wow, the second fastest qualifier, had all kinds of problems from the drop of the green flag, finishing 32nd this evening.
So that's a full field unofficial rundown, but we expect that it's quite correct because it has come from the ever popular Know-It-All brothers. Torch and Zorch with us.